So today we are in an Airbnb in an undisclosed location in Italy for reasons. And I can't tell you where in Italy. If I told you, I'd have to kill you. A few people have asked me about getting started in reenactment and what clothes you need to get started in medieval reenactment, and I figured that I would do a little brief video on that this week. I hope that that is okay with you guys. And I have next to me my pile, which is what I like to call my capsule wardrobe. This is my medieval capsule wardrobe, and this pile allows me to basically do reenactment events from pretty much the late Roman period, certainly like the 6th or 7th centuries, right the way through to, honestly, probably the 14th century, even early 15th, if I'm going really, really lower class. And the stuff in it is all sewn by me, pretty much, apart from a couple of bits and bobs, and it's like an ideal generic medieval person's outfit. So we're going to just take a quick look at it, and as we take a quick look at the things in it and what they mean and what you can do with them, you'll see me getting dressed, and it just kind of shows you how quickly you can put this stuff on if you need to. So this whole pile, it's what, like, it's a couple of pounds, it's like 3 or 4 kilos, something like that in weight, and it consists of all of the things that you need to attend a reenactment, to attend a living history event, as somebody representing a medieval man, basically. And starting from the inside out, you have your medieval undies, and these are my braies. So these are a pair of linen braies. They're basically linen shorts with a linen drawstring waistband, and they're super easy to make. They're basically 2 rectangles for the legs, and then a much longer, thinner rectangle for the crotch and bum piece. That's it. Mine have got additional holes in them. They've got eyelets at the fronts. These 2 red things here, these are eyelets that allow me to tie my hose onto them. You don't have to wear authentic underwear at a reenactment event. Many people don't. I usually do, because if I'm wearing hose, it means that I can tie my hose into them. If I'm not wearing hose and somebody says something snarky about not wearing medieval underpants, I can lift up my tunic and show them my medieval underpants. Above that is my undertunic. My undertunic is disgusting. It is about 15 years old. It is made of linen. Here it is. It has been... That discoloration is not my freaky white balance because of this Airbnb. That is the actual staining from the sweat on my linen tunic. And yes, I do wash it. I wash it on the reg. So people who say that linen doesn't get dirty, you are wrong. You are incorrect. With heavy use, linen certainly does. It's also heavily patched because, like I say, it's 15 years old, so it's had some love. And I didn't sew this. This was a gift, but a linen layer next to the skin is a really popular thing right the way through the medieval period into the early modern period. Linen wicks sweat and moisture away nicely. It's nice and cool, and there's no kind of rule that says you cannot wear wool over your linen. That's not... Nobody... No. Stop it. Stop being Victorian. That's telescoping history onto itself, right? That's... Oh, the Victorians had these weird rules about exposing your ankles and these weird social mores. It's not a thing. That's just wear linen. If you're in, like, California, just wear a linen tunic. Wear 2 linen tunics. Who cares? Just do it. So, you can also wear your socks. If you want to wear medieval socks, early medieval socks, I have a nice pair of Nalbin socks made for me by my friend Jen, and Jen has made some lovely Nalbin socks for me. They're really, really good. The gauge on the original socks that we have is usually very, very fine, but you don't necessarily have to wear your Nalbin socks. They're quite cool, they're quite nice, very comfy as like carpet slippers when you go home as well. So if you want to buy a pair of Nalbin socks, you certainly can buy a pair of Nalbin socks. We know that they were being used in the Viking Age. Later on, Nalbind in places like France and Great Britain and Ireland tends to get replaced by knitting, and knitted stockings are very much what's being worn, certainly by kind of the 16th century. very, very much what's being worn. And a couple of centuries earlier, they're very common as well. But if you're doing Viking Age reenactment, a pair of null-binned socks, it'll set you back, what, 10, 15 quid maybe, 20 quid for a really nicely made pair. Well worth grabbing, in my humble opinion. On top of all of these undyed layers, we're now moving into the slightly more visible stuff. And for my generic kit, really the only next essential item is a tunic. This is my lovely brown tunic. So it's two-tone. We've got undyed and slightly darker, kind of this sort of walnut brown colour. And it does also have some braid applied to some of the seams, just as basic decoration. I made this. It's not the best quality in the world. It's got a couple of nice silk little bands on the cuffs. And this is my generic medieval tunic. It's got just a very plain little boat neck. That's it. That's all there is on that. And that's it. 2 gores at the side makes my tunic. This serves me really nicely as a tunic, basically right the way through the period, like I say. And the way to disguise this tunic and make it more generic is to wear a cloak over the top of it. You'll see when I'm wearing my cloak, you can't really see the neckline as well, and if you're careful with the way you fasten your cloak with a brooch, if you put lots of material up here, you can disguise what neck shape your tunic is, because neck shapes are one of the things that kind of identify where and when a tunic is from. So if you hide the neck, these things, these generic boys, can be very, very useful. The sleeves are quite fitted down towards the wrist. See that shrinkage? So that's very, very popular from what we can tell in the early medieval period. It does seem to be something that goes right the way through in many places and at many levels of society. So if you have like a straight set of sleeves or tapered sleeves that are fairly fitted, that's pretty good as a generic look. It's a good start point. This is wool. This is a nice diamond twill or goose eye twill, depending on where you're from. Let's see if we can get a bit closer on that. There you go. This is a nice English wool. Still smells sheepy. It's had a couple of hand washes. I've had that for about 9 years now, something like that, 8 or 9 years. Brilliant stuff. Brown tunic, brown wool tunic. You cannot go wrong. On the legs, an optional extra that I highly recommend, because of course if you are going very low status, you don't necessarily have anything on your legs, you don't necessarily have hosen. I wear my nice wool hosen, and these are disgusting on the bottoms of the feet. These are bottoms of the feet. Look at those feet. They are gross. That's mostly leather. That's mostly vegetable tanned leather and oil from leather that's gone into the feet of these footy hose. The seam on the bottom is on the inside, so the seam allowance is on the inside. Does it make it uncomfortable to walk on them? Not at all. Absolutely not. These things we have evidence for basically throughout. Like the Thorsberg trousers, those pre-Viking Age trousers, they have feet on them. We know that in the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th centuries, people are making footed hose, and they're a fantastically versatile piece of kit. These are another goose eye twill, another diamond twill, and the shape is fitted to the leg. So this is my leg. This is what shape my leg is. This is what my legs look like. If I take off my trousers, this is what my legs look like. This is like a nice grey-blue colour, and the white as well. So it's like a two-tone wool. It's very, very nice. We've got a little worked eyelet at the top. And the worked eyelet, where's the other one? The other one's actually got the there we go. So the worked eyelet at the tops of these has my little tie in it, and this is a braid, again, that I've made. It's just a little red and yellow stripy braid. That ties them to my braies at the waistband, and we have some lovely depictions from, I think, the 13th century of men with their hosen tied into their braies. You don't have to have them like tightly fitted to the leg. You can have them just sort of basically fitted to the leg. You don't want to be ripping through the backs of the ankles to get your feet into them. There's plenty of pictures where the hose look a little bit like they're rumpled at the ankles, so you don't need, especially if you're lower status, if you're working in the fields all day, you don't need your hosen really tightly fitted to the leg. That's a bit of artistic license that we get in lots of paintings and pictures of people with these perfectly fitted hosen where you can see their calves through them. Like, that's an ideal. That's not necessarily how everybody's hosen looked. That's so disgusting. Look at the colour change in that. Whoa, vile. So hose, not necessarily something you need, but highly recommended, especially if you're reenacting in wetter or colder climates. You're going to want something to protect your legs. That is the essential stuff. Okay, that's the absolutely essential stuff. Moving on to optional extras. A belt is always handy. This belt is very identifiably an early medieval Irish sea style belt, because it's got this lovely belt buckle. This belt buckle actually needs to be replated in silver because all of the silver is wearing off my lovely copper alloy belt buckle. The belt itself is just a leather belt. I actually need to remake my belt because the vast majority of early medieval belts that we have lines of stitching running up them as the leather has been folded over and then stitched down. So I need to redo this belt for early medieval, but before I do that, it will serve as a generic medieval belt if I disguise the strap end and I disguise the very Irish Sea 10th century looking buckle and buckle plate. It will do as a generic belt. Belts are great, they break up your silhouette. They also allow you to hold things from them, like my little pouch. I highly recommend, from a practical point of view, that you get hold of a little square or oblong pouch. It doesn't necessarily have to be square or oblong, but I find that's a practical shape. Get hold of a little leather pouch, because you may not necessarily need one in character, but you sure as hell need somewhere to put your mobile phone and your car keys, don't you? So get a little pouch, get a little bag, a little drawstring bag. Get the nice sort of Viking Age wooden framed, purse framed bags. They can be really cool. We do have evidence for them, so they're useful. Just get yourself a little scrotum. Just get a scrotum to put your keys in, a key scrotum, and then you've got somewhere to put like your glasses case, your credit card, your money for beer for the evening, for the beer tent, right? So get a little pouch. The other thing that is, I would say, essential as outerwear is a cloak. They are de rigueur throughout the period. In fact, they are pretty much everywhere from the pre-Roman Iron Age, as far as we can tell, in Britain certainly, right the way through to the 20th century. Like, cloaks are everywhere. It's astonishing that we've stopped using them. In Western Europe, certainly, we've stopped using cloaks, and I find that amazing. They are such great pieces of kit. It's a square of cloth. It's a semicircle of cloth in some places. Like, just brilliantly practical. Mine is a lovely green wool that I got on the Isle of Lewis with a beautiful replica of one of the Galloway hoard brooches. The brooch that this has got immediately identifies it as early medieval. However, if you, as a reenactor, want to buy some shinies, you could buy a brooch for every 100 years that you intend to be reenacting, right? You could buy a 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th century brooch. Voila, you have disguised yourself as somebody from that century, right? If you don't want to do that, a plain bone pin with some thread wrapped around it will close your cloak, and is probably something that was being used from the year dot to the 19th century for that purpose. So get yourself a cloak. Cloaks are amazing. You can sleep on them, under them. You can wrap up your kit in them. So if you need to bug out quickly, you get your cloak, you get your belt, you tie your belt around your cloak with all of your kit inside it. You have a little bindle, you chuck it on your shoulder, and you run for a train, because you've got 15 minutes to get from where you're camping to the railway station, and nobody can give you a lift. I am speaking from experience. Next up, shoes. These are another thing that will really date you. So if you are wearing a pair of shoes like these are very much Viking Age looking shoes, right? They're little ankle shoes with the toggle on the side there. They're turn shoes, so they've been sewn inside out and then turned the right way around, and they're lovely. They're great little. They look like baked beans. I love my baked bean shoes. These are great. But the baked bean shoes are very, very dateable. So again, this is me assuming that you are a beginner reenactor, that you are new to the world of historical reenactment, and you have maybe the funds to buy a pair of shoes. Try and buy yourself a set of foot bags, basically. So they'll look a bit like this. They won't have toggles on them necessarily, but they'll just be like a pair of plain leather shoes that nobody will question. And toggle shoes are used later. They are used later in the medieval period. They are popular later on, but nice plain pair of shoes. So that's pretty much it. That's building up a little medieval capsule wardrobe. Get yourself a tunic, get yourself a belt, and you're pretty much done. Get yourself a pair of hose and some undies and underlayers. Get yourself a pair of shoes, and you're there. If you're trying to do a women's impression, it can be a little more complex. So I'm going to do a video about building a women's medieval capsule wardrobe. But like I say, if you've got any more thoughts and ideas and suggestions, bung them down in the comments section. And diolch yn fawr iawn am ymuno. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you have enjoyed this. And if you would like to support the channel financially, of course, we have the Patreon, we have the coffee page down in the description, where the Patreon page, we have lots of other little bits and bobs and that sort of thing. So thank you very much to my generous patrons. And until the next time, tan y tro nesa, hwyl am y tro. Bye for now. Arrivederci.